Hello, everyone. Tell me, guys, how many of you have rich friends? Who else can boast of knowing millionaires, if not billionaires? I knew someone like that. He was a billionaire, and his name was Dries Rough. He was in the precious metals recycling business. Even though it brought in a huge income, his main financial source was something else. It was gambling. As a rule, rich people are gamblers. They have a lot of lust in them. They are hunters. They like experiments and new things. My boss had adrenaline in his blood at such moments, and he went crazy with emotion. Once I thought that his heart would stop from too much emotion, but it didn't. How did I meet him? I'll tell you. I was helping my mom that year. She's a cleaner and works for a cleaning company. Like my mom said, it was all for my bright future. But I didn't understand. Could a bright future be built on universal sacrifice, 20 hours of work a day, and lack of sleep? I was the smartest in my class and probably in the whole school. I was quick to memorize, to calculate, but what I did best was analysis. I loved analyzing everything from chemistry problems to song lyrics in music class. And only my physics teacher just loved to have discussions with me on different topics. My classmates did nothing while we chatted, and I was never bored. So everyone was happy all around. So on that fateful day, I went to help my mom with the cleaning. She received an order to a penthouse. It was unreal to cope alone, and if you share the work with someone, then you need to last, and money. The pay there was good, so I volunteered to help her. As soon as we walked in, our eyes flew around. Everything was so expensive and bright. Everything was tastefully chosen. The furniture, the color of the ceiling, walls, and tiles on the floor. Every detail in the form of a light fixture just added to the whole picture. My mother poked me with her elbow when she noticed that the owner was coming over to us.
Hello, my name is Dries Rough. Just, sir, I'm the owner. Can you manage on your own here?
I have a helper.
A child? Doesn't social services know about this? I don't want any trouble.
I'm 16. I have the right to work after school hours. It's 2:30 p.m. Classes ended 15 minutes ago. Then the responsibility is mine alone, so don't worry. There will be no problems with the law.
I see you're prepared.
Excuse me, sir. She likes to talk a lot.
Less talk and more action. Time is money. Can you handle it by 7 p.m.? I'll be fine. I'll go to the office then. It doesn't need to be cleaned, okay?
Yes, sir, of course.
If you do it early, I'll give you an extra 100. Is that a deal?
You give us 200 and we'll be done by 5.
I like the way you bargain. I'll give you 300 extra if you make it by 4:30. And if you don't make it by 7, I'll take half of what you made.
Deal.
Jeez, she's kidding. She's just a kid. She took my hand. It's a deal, and it's worth more than money.
When he left, my mom yelled at me, started rushing around, stirring up some cleaning supplies, getting buckets and running, and I was looking for the back room.
What are you doing? We don't have much time. Hurry up.
These houses have handy, modern cleaning appliances. Just need a woman's hand. I'm sure he doesn't know how to use it.
What makes you say that?
You can see that he's a bachelor. There are servants everywhere, but there is no main one who keeps order. Apparently, she's on vacation and he's waiting for important guests.
Analyzed.
While watching, there's a lot of fuss in the kitchen. He's doing the reception.
It doesn't matter. If we don't make it, we'll lose $100.
That is, we'll lose something that we essentially don't have and we would not have gotten without the deal.
You can never have too much money.
Okay, Mom, while you were talking, I found a couple of smart vacuums and a smart mop.
What are they?
I quickly Googled the models and found out how to use them. In no time, the whole room was cleaned in 6 minutes. While the floor was washed and vacuumed, I had time to wipe down the windows with a special cleaner and my mom wiped down the chandelier. The other rooms were smaller. I laid things out, wiped down furniture, and washed the floors myself. We finished cleaning at 4:29 p.m. and I knocked on his office door, and he turned off the timer and went to check on the job. He paid good money to my mom, and to me, my $300. He said I was smart, and he liked that type of person. Then someone called him on the phone, and judging from the conversation, he was reminded of the stakes. Dries quickly turned on the TV and watched his racehorse lag behind everyone else's. He was angry, and he lost. He told someone he would give the money tomorrow night and hung up. Mom went to the bathroom, and I watched with him. That horse is the deadest.
And you know about horse racing, too.
You can see it. Ears flattened, tail down. Her eyesight is bad, and her front right leg is limping. How could you choose her?
I'll make another bid. Will you help me?
Okay. I recommended one horse to him. He called on the phone. They laughed and said that horse was new and no one would risk betting on it. He bet $3,000, and in no time, his horse won. He jumped up from his seat, put his arm around me, and yelled for joy. We went to the exit, but he stopped us, asked for my phone number, and gave me another $500 on top.
Come back tomorrow lunchtime. I'll make more bets.
Okay. Mom was in shock, but agreed when I showed her my $800 for a couple of hours of work. It was even more than she made. I went to see him the next day, and we bet again. He won, and then again and again. Out of his excitement, he asked how I was so smart, to which I said if he wanted to work with me, then he had to pay. He was interested, so he decided to do just that. He called me, and I helped him make bets. Out of 5 bets, he only lost once. Dries Rough was thrilled. And then our partnership expanded a little bit. It happened the moment they brought him the papers to sign. Even I found a mistake there, having no experience in dealing with such bonds. I saved him from losing $1.5 million, and he paid me $1,500 for it. But like I said, rich people are gamblers. His colleagues got wind of me. They came to visit Dries to see his assistant. It wasn't without their dirty jokes, but Dries didn't let me down. He called me his mascot. He fired his other assistant, and I started coming to him more and more after school. And not only was his business going well, but his betting as well. I had a rough idea of what to expect. After a couple of months, my mom and I had already saved up money for a nice car, closed the mortgage on the house, and were saving me money for college. Mom was very happy, and I was going back and forth here and there. I didn't tell anyone but my mom about my relationship with Dries. I didn't want it to be used against us in any way. And like I said, rich people are gamblers. After another 2 months, Dries asked me to help him to make schemes to bypass taxes. He also ran petty schemes to cheat his colleagues so that they didn't understand anything, or at least not at once. Then he decided to make a fortune. He had a very cool business colleague who was practically a trillionaire. Dries was jealous of him and wanted to be as rich, so he walked on his head, but not like his colleague, Jonathan Pillow. Jonathan often visited Dries, and they discussed the labor exchange, the world economy, and women. The latter topic was too much of a favorite. I would go home at that point. But one day after Jonathan left, Dries asked me to stick around. He took me into his office and gave me a taste of the most expensive whiskey in his collection. I couldn't even drink the first sip, but then I even liked the taste. Dries got me talking about an important case, and then he offered me a deal to sign some papers and get John to sign them too. What kind of papers?
It's just a couple of contracts. He won't sign them for me, but he'll sign them for you.
What's my signature for?
Well, you're my proxy, so there's no problem. Legally, you have the same rights as I do. I mean, to represent me.
Oh, yeah.
Well, will you sign it?
Yeah, if I can get another whiskey.
Sure, I'll get it for you.
As he left the office, I signed the papers, had another drink, and went to John's. The next day, the papers were ready. Dries was hosting an event at his home. The new head of their rich club was to be announced, who would get the lion's share of the rights to the overall piggy bank of the betting company's business contribution, where I was the guest of honor. At the end of the evening, Dries was acting overexcited. I knew his condition. He did so in anticipation of victory. Dries poured a glass of champagne, gave a touching speech, and security was stepping up behind him. "That's not good," I said to John, who only winked. Dries pulled out a piece of paper, and sure enough, he became the head. Everyone guessed it, but dessert was still ahead of us. When everybody left, it was just the 3 of us. Dries, John, and I. We went to Dries's office, and he started openly blackmailing his friend, saying that either John would give him $200 million tomorrow, or he would take 50% of his real estate. Dries was not expecting such reaction, but John was calm. He said he wouldn't do that. Then Dries pulled out a document with mine and John's signatures that said that John was giving some of the property to a friend, and if the police got involved, Dries would just wash his hands of it and get the hell out of there. And John and I would be on trial.
What? You're kind of like,
Not surprised?
is there something I don't know?
Yeah, like the existence of an erasable pen.
What?
I have one for my diary at school. I get it from my mom. I'm sorry, but you're not smarter than me. Dries went white and then blushed.
You're with him! How could you? How could you? You're my friend, and she's your helper you wanted to ditch. And to keep it quiet, I got a tape recorder working. So come on, man. Pack it up and get out while you're alive. Or else. You know what the club's gonna do to you.
He yelled and screamed and screamed and screamed, but he got out. I got his house, $7 million from Joe as a finder's fee, and a deal with him. That's how I became a millionaire in almost a year.
Hi everyone, I'm Trevor. I don't have any parents, so I'm a foster kid. But not so long ago, I was adopted and, my worst enemy became my parent. I'll tell you about it now. As I said, I don't know where I was born or who my parents are. I only know that I was brought to the threshold of an orphanage when I was very young. I was only 5 months old. As the teacher of the house says, it was the middle of the night and someone was knocking hard on the boarding school door. And when they came out, they saw me wrapped in a bag, a bottle with a mixture, and nothing else. I don't know who my parents are, why they gave up on me, or why they gave me life at all if they couldn't be responsible for it. But, on the other hand, I probably don't want to know. I grew up in a boarding school. Instead of having 2 parents, I had several nannies. Of course, life there with its own rules, restrictions, and problems, but I didn't know any other. In the orphanage, everyone told me that I was aggressive, impudent, ill-mannered, and bullying boy, and I did not understand what I was doing wrong. But personally, I was happy with everything. I wasn't going to dance and sing in front of anyone, because I didn't owe anyone anything. Time passed, and when I grew up, I went to school. I even lost count of how many schools I changed. I had my own stories in each of them. Often I had to defend my rights with my fists. I'm not a fan of violence, but, as it happens, you behave smoothly, and you're sure to get to the bottom of any boy like rich boy and start conflicts. And I hate when a kid behaves like a big mouth, and I use the tools of instant response. Fists. Both simple and fast and effective. But I often pay for it with my stability. Although this concept is relative, because, on the other hand, the fact that I was constantly expelled is also a kind of stability, right? When I was pushed into school for the last time, I had already lost all hope that I'd ever go to the same school for more than 2 months. They didn't want to take me, and this is understandable. What kind of principal would want such a student who constantly undermines the reputation of the institution? But in this, I was taken. The headmistress, Miss Mills, was interested in my candidacy. She said, "We educate even the worst," when I came into the office. This phrase already made me feel uneasy. One look from her said, "Sit down and shut up." Miss Mills had glasses, a jacket, a knee-length skirt, and a shirt inside. And she wore medium heels and probably never smiled. She had a reputation as an iron lady. Everyone was afraid of her. So I realized that I would not stay in this school for long. "Young man, sit up straight. This is not a pub," she shouted to me every time she entered the lesson. "Trevor Anders, come up to my office now. Trevor Anders, leave the dining room. Trevor Anders, go home and change your clothes. Trevor Anders, comb your hair. Trevor Anders, stand still. Trevor Anders, listen. Don't get in the way. Get in, get out, and blah, blah, blah." Oh no, I'm sick of the headmistress. I felt like she was being stupid and picking on me, but she didn't know yet that I wasn't going to let it go. I did everything to provoke her even more. I dropped flowers in pots, scribbled on school walls, furniture, always had a showdown in the schoolyard, fought with the guys, was late for classes, or just missed them outright. I knew I was pushing myself, but I couldn't let Miss Mills boss me around. For each joint, I got either a bad grade or a duty at school, and if I refused to comply, complaints went to the principal of the boarding school, and there I was punished worse. But one day, I got mad enough to plant a rat in her office. She screamed like she was out of her mind. The whole school heard her yell, and I laughed heartily. She immediately figured out who was responsible. I had already packed my things and was thinking of leaving, because the deduction was guaranteed. But she did something else, something I didn't expect. She adopted me. When I heard the news, I thought she was crazy. At first, I didn't even believe it, and then I asked why she did it, to which she replied that she would raise me. Then I realized how badly I was in trouble. From the next day, I started a different lifestyle. Wake up on the alarm clock, shower, breakfast, school without delay, then home, some chores, and sleep. I resisted for a long time, tried to escape, swore with her until I was blue in the face, but nothing took her. She clung to me, and that was it. She didn't have any children of her own. Or rather, she had a son who had been living in his life for many years and didn't even write to her. We fought it both at school and at home. It was a difficult year, but then I think I got used to it. I didn't think she was such a witch anymore. As soon as I thought about it, problems came into our more or less established life. The principal of the boarding school found me and said that my mother showed up and she wanted to meet me. We went there along with Miss Mills. I have a habit, as it's called. I was terribly worried and didn't know what to expect. I saw before me a thin alcoholic who shamelessly looked me in the eye and said, "Let's go home, son. I need you." I was so stunned by these words that I just kept silent. Miss Mills grabbed my arm and told me to get in the car, and my birth mother started calling me and hit the headmistress. "What do you need it for? No one to work to buy you alcohol? He's my son and only my son. You are 17 years late," she shouted, and was about to leave. But so the alcoholic grabbed her by the hair, and Miss Mills put her down with one right blow, and went on. I was just blown away, and the principal of the boarding school pretended that he didn't see anything. She hasn't been in my life since. When we got home, I wanted to thank her, but she told me not to say anything, so she knows everything. Our life was back to normal. But we were happy early. Suddenly, her prodigal son appeared. The news that she had adopted a child must have spread and reached him. You might think he was jealous of his mother, but the first thing he did was come to me, tell me not to expect to inherit from her. That was all he was interested in. I didn't interfere in their affairs, but just stood on the sidelines and listened. The headmistress, of course, was delighted with him. After all, he was her own. He pretended to miss her, as if he was still alive. The last 2 weeks, I felt out of place, packed my things, and wanted to leave while Miss Mills was asleep. At the time, I heard her son talking to someone on the phone. He was going to rob his own mother. I couldn't let that happen. I ran into the bedroom and warned her, but she didn't believe me and even yelled at me when I was asleep. I wanted to leave and give up on her, but I remembered how she stood up for me in front of my mother and hit properly, pretended that I was gone. As I said, her son brought a gang of guys into the house and they started stealing everything of value in masks. I called the police, and when they got to her bedroom, I jumped out and stood in front of the door, protecting myself with a bat. They attacked me, and I resisted as best I could. But while they were beating me, the police came and they ran away. Miss Mills was in shock. She couldn't believe what was happening. When she saw the state I was in, she immediately hugged me. From that moment on, we agreed to trust each other. I think we came into each other's lives for a reason. This is the story, friends, but what do you think? Write your opinion in the comments.